Senator McCain has maintained that if our allies believe we don't have the resolve to finish what we start, that it will send a clear signal to our enemies that America and Americans are weak. VFW agrees with Senator McCain. You can't support the troops without supporting their mission. As they work to bring security and stability to a region of the world that is centerpiece of the world on terrorism. Once the decision is made to commit our forces, our nation's #1 priority must be to support the troops so that they can accomplish their mission and return home to their families with their heads held high. Comrades and sisters, fellow citizens, may I present to you a life member of VFW Post 7401 in Chandler, Arizona, Senator John McCain.
Thank you, George. Thank you all, and thank you, George, for the National Commander, George Lisicki, for your kind introduction. It's wonderful to see old friends, and of course, it's an honor to be here today. I'm always grateful to be in the company of Americans who have had the burden of serving our country in distant lands and the honor of having proved your patriotism in difficult circumstances. Your example is a constant reminder to Americans that we have obligations to our country that are greater than our personal ambitions, and that our self-respect will owe more to how faithfully we keep those obligations than any other success that we achieve in life. Among those obligations is to debate honestly issues that involve America's security in the future, because so many Americans have sacrificed everything to keep us secure. All that's asked of the rest of us is that we do not dishonor their sacrifice by treating the cause they serve so bravely as an opportunity to argue without wisdom, to divide us without care for the consequences, to advance our individual or partisan interests at the expense of America's security. At the beginning of last year, we were engaged in a great debate about what to do in Iraq. 4 years of a badly conceived military strategy had brought us almost to the point of no return. Sectarian violence in Iraq was spiraling out of control. Life had become a struggle for survival, and a full-scale civil war seemed almost unavoidable. Al-Qaeda was on the offensive. Entire Iraqi provinces were under the control of extremists and were deemed all but lost. Faced with the prospect of defeat, we had two fundamental choices. We could retreat from Iraq and accept the horrible consequences of our defeat, or we could change strategies and try to turn things around. It was, I believe, a critical moment in our nation's history and a time of testing for our nation's political leadership. In the year that has passed, our nation showed its strength and its deep sense of global responsibility. Instead of abandoning Iraq to civil war, genocide, and terror, and the Middle East to the destabilizing effects of these consequences, we changed strategies. We sent to Iraq additional troops, many of them on their third or fourth tour, and a great seasoned general to lead them, with a battle plan that at long last actually addressed the challenges we faced in Iraq. Within 6 months, the men and women who have made such enormous sacrifices for the rest of us dramatically turned around the situation in Iraq. From June 2007 through my last recent trip last month, sectarian and ethnic violence in Iraq has been reduced by 90%. Civilian deaths of coalition forces fell by 70%. The dramatic reduction in violence has opened the way for a return to something approaching normal political and economic life for the average Iraqi. Political reconciliation is occurring across Iraq at the local, provincial, grassroots level. Sunni and Shia chased from their homes by terrorist and sectarian violence, are returning. The Sons of Iraq and awakening movements, where former Sunni insurgents have now joined in the fight against al-Qaeda, continue to grow. Iraq's political order is also evolving in hopeful ways. 4 out of the 6 laws cited as benchmarks by the United States have been passed by the Iraqi legislature. A law on amnesty and a law rolling back some of the harsher restrictions against former employees of the Iraqi government have made it possible for Iraqis to find genuine reconciliation. They should also encourage both Sunni and Shia to feel they have a stake in Iraq's future. The legislature has devolved greater power to local and provincial authorities, where much of the real work of rebuilding Iraqi society is taking place. My fellow veterans, much more needs to be done, and Iraq's politicians need to know that we expect them to show the necessary leadership to rebuild their country, for only they can. The job of bringing security to Iraq is not finished. Iraqi forces recently battled in Basra against radical Shia militias supported by Iran, a fight that showed both the progress made by the Iraqi security forces. A year ago today, they could not have carried out such operations on their own, and the continuing need for coalition support. The situation in southern Iraq remains unsettled. There continues to be a significant flow of money and weaponry from Iran into Diyala province, Baghdad, Basra, and elsewhere in support of the Iranian-backed special groups, the Jaish al-Mahdi and the Badr organization. Sunni terrorists and insurgents continue to maintain bases in Mosul and elsewhere in Nineveh province. But there's no doubt about the basic reality in Iraq. We are no longer staring into the abyss of defeat, and we can now look ahead to the genuine prospect of success. Success in Iraq is the establishment of a generally peaceful, stable, prosperous, democratic state that poses no threat to its neighbors and contributes to the defeat of terrorists. It's the advance of religious tolerance over violent radicalism. It is a level of security that allows the Iraqi authorities to govern, the average person to live a normal life, and international entities to operate. It's a situation in which the rule of law, after decades of tyranny, takes hold. It's in Iraq, where Iraqi forces have the responsibility for enforcing security in their country, and where American troops can return home with the honor of having secured their country's interest at great personal cost, and helping another people achieve peace and self-determination. Today, these goals are within reach. Never despair, Winston Churchill once said, and we did not despair. We were tested, and we rose to the challenge. Some political leaders close their eyes to the progress that the surge has made possible and want only to argue about the past. But the question for the next president